Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition, and with Jason Aaron's Thor run currently hammering home just how good the character is, we thought we'd break down the top 5 graphic novels by the writer that you need to pick up after reading the main series. Throughout this video, friend of the show and Aaron expert Tom Quee is going to be letting you know which books you need to check out if you can't get enough of the main series. This is some of the creator's best work, and each one of these deserves your attention. Now, there may be some spoilers here, so if you don't want any plot elements ruined at all, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. With that out of the way, I just want to give a huge thank you for clicking this video. Now let's get into the breakdown of the top 5 Jason Aaron books to pick up after Thor: God of Thunder.
Hey everyone, Tom here, and firstly just to say outright that Scalped is my all-time favourite comic ever. It made me a Jason Aaron fan for life and ultimately led to me checking out the rest of this list. I mean, I like this series so much that I actually bought the hardcovers after having the trades. So Scalped was an ongoing noir crime series running on Vertigo from March 2007 to August 2012. It ran for 60 issues entirely. It focuses on the Ogala Lakota inhabitants of the fictional Prairie Rose Indian Reservation, a world of organised crime, drug addiction, rampant poverty, local politics, and proud cultural identity. And much like Dickens' London or David Simon's Baltimore, the Res feels like a character unto itself. One whose epic sprawl encapsulates everyone from Chief Lincoln Red Crow, the president of the tribal council and corrupt head of the criminal empire feeding off the reservation, to Dino Poorbear, a single dad who struggles to make ends meet cleaning up Lincoln's casino and who is eventually engulfed into the crime world itself. At the centre of the story though, and the main character, is Dashiell Badhorse, someone who left the Res 15 years ago because of its horrors, only to return to find it even worse. He's changed, however. Issue 1 reveals that Dash is undercover, back to bring down Red Crow as a double agent for the FBI. I would say spoilers, but this is heavy spoilers, right? And this part of the book is a particular highlight, and Dash's constant terror on being caught and his awareness of all the lines that he's crossing continually is heady. And this is just one of a dozen of electrifying threads throughout the pages of Scalped. Every character you encounter throughout the book is skillfully drawn in both senses. You want to learn more from each, and Aaron isn't shy with the flashbacks. These don't ultimately detract like Lindelof, however. They rather inform the story intelligently and make us reassess characters throughout the narrative. Nitz, for example, the cigar-chomping, binge-drinking FBI handler who's in charge of Dash's post, is at first a blowhard asshole, the type Aaron has a unique skill in writing, but when you learn more about his relationship with the murdered FBI agents that were involved in a shootout with Red Crow and Dash's mom Gina years and years ago, this being an incident that hangs over the entire story Rashomon style, you start to see Nitz as a blowhard with conviction. Aaron is superb at redemption arcs too, and showing lessons learned through attrition. We see this in a microcosm through Karnow, a character encountered briefly in the early issues, and one we learn quickly is a charlatan, able to impress those in his small town just across the border from the Res that he's a war hero, but this is something that instantly doesn't cut the mustard with Dash amongst other characters. We learn he's a fraud, but one who eventually redeems himself and goes on the hunt through the night to settle it with Red Crow in the endgame. The weaving of the tone throughout the book is intoxicating. Aaron and Guerra are as comfortable in a high noon brawl or deep underworld discussions as they are when they're leading spiritually into Native American history. I did think early on when I was reading this initially, I've read this about 5 or 6 times entirely now, how is Aaron going to keep up the intensity? But for the most part, the whole run is a white-knuckle ride, with Aaron constantly throwing exciting developments into the mix and foregoing expectations. The book, I will say, is unflinching. It depicts harrowing drug use, lots of drunken sex and other peccadillos amongst it, and I love the unvarnished approach. Nothing is left on the table or kept under it. I mean, Aaron feels so confident writing this world that he even takes a small detour, I think it's about the 4th volume, between a little nook between arcs, to focus on an elderly couple that live far out in the boonies, in the depths of the Res, and the writing here is sparse and lyrical, and the overall story, this is just like a little short story one shot, is tender and captivating and just beautiful, really. I mean, I really could go on and on about all the characters in Scalped, and maybe I'll do some more Scalped videos for the channel in the future as a whole, but this is just to give you a fragmented overview of sorts as to why you should read this spellbinding, rich, earthy, inspired piece of art. Oh, and not least, of course, as well, I have to mention, as I'm sure you've seen throughout this little segment, the art of R. Guerra himself. I mean, there have been other other artists on Scalped, most notably Jason Latour, that Aaron will go to on Southern Bastards, which we'll get to shortly. He was a little guest here, and you could definitely see his style coming through. But Guerra is the star, this scratchy, vivid, flinty, expressive. I'm constantly in awe turning these pages. It's just stunning, mature, grimy, the vision, is shot with clarity. It's all of the characters feel so well realized. Very happy that he would work with Aaron again on the Goddamned, which again we'll get to in this list shortly. But Scalped is a masterpiece in my eyes, guys. If you've not read it, get on it. Southern Bastards. In another tale of a reprehensible individual at the top of a devoutly corrupt enterprise masquerading as a barely legal one, comes Southern Bastards, Aaron's bittersweet address to the South, a comic that simultaneously celebrates the beauty of that world whilst also demonstrating all its rotten practices. The setting is Craw County, a land of barbecues, criminal enterprise, and most importantly, football. And the man at the centre of every pass and payoff is Coach Boss, someone who has dragged himself through so much dirt to get to the top that he can never be clean. And whilst not as noirish or complex perhaps as Scalped, at least not yet, the series is still up there with Aaron's best in the way that it balances an out-and-out sports drama with a thrilling action story replete with characters with more flesh than the cooking on offer at the Boss barbecue. Jason Latour absolutely knocks it out the park with his deep-fried art style too. His antebellum colours are rich and greasy. The two Jasons had worked together on Scalped before, and Aaron clearly saw a kindred spirit with his vision. Despite being grounded in fixed stereotypes, Southern Bastards is a constant surprise. For instance, the man you're set to believe is the main character is killed early on. It's actually his daughter coming into the fray later on for revenge. Aaron is a master of setting multiple motivations around a single event, like in Scalped, where all the different people of Prairie Rose circulate around the opening casino, and here, in Southern Bastards, the residents of Craw County are built expertly leading up to a big game for the Rebs, the coach's team that is always at the beating heart of the story. That's the third volume, but volume 2, however, Gridiron, telling the story of how this pipsqueak in Coach Boss rose up not only to play football to a high level, but manage it as well, is exhilarating, with more twists than a pigskin play that I'm never going to understand. Conan the Barbarian. By Crom! Jason Aaron and Conan the Barbarian is just a match made in heaven, isn't it? And I didn't actually know if in Conan lore there was another name for heaven, so I did a bit of research, and turns out there isn't, but he did once fight a bear from heaven back in 1980, which is what I'd like to see when I die. It's magical journeys, outrageous beasts, rippling muscles, it's all here, and as I said before, my Conan knowledge wasn't much. I'd seen the movie, heard some feverish Joe Rogan endorsements, but I love this series, and from what I can tell from old school fans, this really feels like a lost manuscript of the days of yore. For those not in the know, Conan is essentially the ultimate fantasy warrior, and Aaron demonstrates this in the first panel by showing Conan being born on a battlefield, with his mother cutting the umbilical cord with a knife that no doubt is soon to be plunged into an enemy's throat. It's so metal. I mean, the Conan presented here is highly intelligent, utterly brutal, and quick with a nasty retort. The stories are quite simple, but really well put together, and the artwork complements everything beautifully. Often quite flashy, but never difficult to follow. It's funny, it's dark, there's no real interweaving plot lines or deep rumination on character motivations or backstories. There are giant snake beheadings, however, so what else do you want? The Goddamned. Next up is The Goddamned, a series I was incredibly excited for when it was announced, as it paired Aaron and R.M. Guerra of the aforementioned Scalped together once more. And although the project is one that, undeniably is a fun read, narratively I found it a little unsatisfying. We're a long way from the reservation or the South, or actually in biblical times, to be precise, which is a mouth-watering environment for someone as Old Testament brutal as Jason Aaron can be. The series follows Cain, the inventor of murder, who himself cannot be killed, travelling through this hellish post-fall world, as well as the journey of Noah as well, and their inevitable meeting throughout. It's bloody, blasphemous as heck. The story is filled to the brim with murderous children, depraved whores, and a bunch of the goddamned. I guess in terms of a story backbone, we explore the world also for a mother looking for a child, and Cain's in the fold, and, he gains some of his humanity back in the face of this. There is a real stinger as well as the ending that I won't give away, but for the most part, the story is a little typical. This sparse pre-civilization environment means Aaron can't really flip between the stratas of society as he's wont to do, and this irks me somewhat. It doesn't mean it's not a glorious journey throughout, and Guerra really shines in some of these enormous panels, these tableaus that reward if the story itself doesn't quite have the heft of Scalped. It's a different kind of tale. It feels a little samey sometimes in its snarling, combative nature, but still totally worth a read. I think there was like 5 or 6 issues, there's only been 1 volume so far, but Jason Aaron did say on Twitter that more is coming. This was 2 years ago, but these things do take time, and, you know, I'm going to be first in line for the Exodus chapter. The Other Side. This was essentially Jason Aaron's breakthrough and his first meaty piece of work. Funnily enough, his cousin, so this is a kind of a Vietnam story, his cousin Gustav Hasford wrote the semi-autobiographical novel The Short Timers from 1979, on which Full Metal Jacket was based, and he was obviously a huge influence on Aaron. In 2006, Aaron made a blind submission to Vertigo with this story, his Vietnam War story, The Other Side, and it was nominated for an Eisner Award, and following this, you know, he pitched Scalped, and the rest is history. The Other Side itself tells the story of 2 Vietnam War soldiers, one American, Billy Everett, and one Vietnamese, Vo Bin Dai, with the cover beautifully illustrating that these 2 men are inextricably linked throughout the conflict. Not enemies as such, just the other side of it. Billy doesn't want to go to war, he tries to contract VD, and obviously Dai wants to go to war. He volunteers from his village to die for his country. And what follows through this is a punishing interrogation of the Vietnam War, how it dissolves or resolve, and sanity. The story is slightly different in its pacing and tact from what I'm used to. I mean, there are elements that you'd expect from all the 4 previously mentioned titles, but the war aspect obviously draws it down different avenues. Despite it being an early work, it's mature and solid, and the artwork too. Wow, the artwork by Cameron Stewart is top notch. Even though we weren't really there, man, it really feels like we are with this intensity, this line work being so unflinching and severe. The Other Side is a really grim, beautiful kind of book, if you get what I mean. It's a human story in a hellish warscape, and despite not being a big fan of war comics myself, I thoroughly enjoy this book. It's painful and poignant, unafraid to ask big questions and score them with white-knuckle thrills.
And that's our list. I just want to give a huge thank you to Tom for dropping this video on the channel, and if you want to check out more videos by him, then I'll leave a link to all his other channels in the description below. If you enjoyed this and want to hear the 2 of us talk more about comics, then make sure you check out our podcast, Watching the Watchmen, in which we analyse the seminal graphic novel by Alan Moore page by page. We are also currently going over Doomsday Clock, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more. If you want to come chat to me about movies, TV shows, games and comic books, then make sure you follow me on Twitter at DefinitionYT. It's the best way to get in touch with me, and it's the perfect place to suggest new videos and content, so hopefully I see you over there after this. Also, just want to let you know that we're currently giving away a free copy of Spider-Man Far From Home on Blu-ray, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is to like this video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts on this list in the comments section below. The winner will be chosen at random on October the 15th, and the Blu-ray will be shipped out from then to whoever gets the prize, so best of luck to everyone who takes part. This is a channel for people who are super into superheroes, so if that's the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this. I've been Definition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.